Ian Rappaport just dropped the most calculated and maddening move the Washington Commanders have made this entire offseason. And once I break down exactly what is happening between Ashburn and San Francisco, you're going to understand why the name Brandon Aiyuk has every single fan in the DMV glued to their screen. But what Rappaport said also raises a question that nobody in Washington is willing to answer out loud. And before this video is over, I am going to answer it, even if it is not what you want to hear. Because while Peters is sitting back, waiting for San Francisco to blink first on Aiyuk, there is another receiver available right now, today, at this very moment, who could vanish from the market before you finish watching this video. And the reason Washington still has not signed him is the exact same reason Burgundy and Gold fans should be losing sleep tonight. And then on top of all that, Bleacher Report just published something nobody in the DMV saw coming. They put a current Commanders player, one who is making $15 million a year right now, on their list of the best players in the entire NFL who are going to get cut before the season even starts. And when you see the numbers behind that prediction, you're going to understand why Adam Peters already has the pen in his hand and the contract sitting on the desk. Raise hail. This starts right now. All right, fam, let me break this down because the situation with Brandon Aiyuk and the Washington Commanders has officially become a full-blown standoff. And right now, San Francisco has all the leverage. Here's exactly where things stand today. Aiyuk wants out of San Francisco. Washington wants Aiyuk. Aiyuk wants Washington. Everything points in the same direction. So what is the problem? The problem has a name: the San Francisco 49ers. Ian Rappaport from NFL Network laid it out as clearly as it gets. The Commanders have interest, but they are waiting for the Niners to cut him. And the Niners do not want to cut him because they know Washington is sitting there waiting. That is the whole game right there. San Francisco is using Aiyuk as a chess piece, as leverage, as a power move, simply to avoid handing him over to Washington for free. And here's the detail that makes this even messier. Aiyuk has no guaranteed money left on his contract. Why? Because he stopped showing up for rehab last year. That means the 49ers can hold on to this situation all the way until week 1 if they want to. They can let him sit in contractual purgatory the entire summer, and it costs them nothing in guarantees. Think about it from San Francisco's perspective. If they cut Aiyuk today, Washington signs him tomorrow morning. He goes through training camp with Jaden Daniels. They build chemistry, and suddenly you potentially have one of the best quarterback-receiver duos in the entire NFC. The Niners do not want that, especially because Washington is a conference rival and because watching a player of Aiyuk's caliber thrive against you for the next several years is exactly the kind of move that haunts a front office. Now, the real question every Commanders fan in the DMV is asking right now is this: should Washington just force a trade? And look, I could be wrong here, but I have a strong opinion on this. I understand the argument. If you want him, go get him, but you have to be honest about what you are actually buying. Aiyuk has elite talent. Nobody disputes that. When he is locked in and healthy, he is one of the best receivers in this league. But the fact that he stopped showing up for rehab last year is a massive red flag. That is not a rumor or speculation. That is a documented fact that cost him every dollar of his guaranteed money. Is that the kind of guy you want bringing energy into Jaden Daniels' locker room right now? The Commanders are at a delicate moment in their build. They have a young quarterback who needs stability, winning culture, and teammates who are 100% committed. Aiyuk at his best fits perfectly. Aiyuk with attitude problems and questions about his commitment. That is poison for a young team trying to find its identity. Adam Peters knows this, and I genuinely believe that is why Washington is waiting for San Francisco to make the first move. If the Niners cut him, the Commanders evaluate him on their terms and decide. If it comes down to a trade, Peters is going to calculate exactly what price makes sense and what price turns Aiyuk into more of a liability than an asset. For now, though, the reality is simple. San Francisco controls this entire story, and that honestly is frustrating for every Burgundy and Gold fan watching the off-season clock tick down while the receiver you want sits in contractual limbo waiting for someone to blink first. So I'm leaving you with one question before we move on. Would you wait on Aiyuk all the way until week 1, or do you tell Peters to move on and find another option? Drop your answer in the comments because I genuinely want to know where the DMV stands on this one. And while Washington plays the waiting game with San Francisco, there is another receiver available right now, today, at this very moment, who might not stay available much longer. Stefon Diggs, 32 years old, born and raised in the Maryland area, a former Maryland Terp, a man who grew up watching this franchise, who has genuine roots in this city, in this fan base, and who, according to sources close to the situation, is legitimately interested in exploring Washington as his next destination. But there is urgency here, and this is not manufactured urgency for clicks. John Keim of ESPN was direct about it. A source who used to work with Washington said Diggs can provide immediate impact. He can play in the slot. He can play as a flanker in 2 receiver sets. And most importantly, he gives rookie Antonio Williams the time and space to develop without being thrown into the fire before he is ready. Because let's keep it a buck, asking Williams to be the WR2 as a rookie is unfair and unrealistic at the same time. And then comes the detail that changes the entire tone of this conversation. Another source told Keim that now that Diggs' legal issues are resolved, more teams are going to start showing interest. Which means the market is moving. Which means if Peters wants Stefon Diggs, the time to act is not tomorrow. It was yesterday. Now the counter-arguments exist, and I have to name them honestly. Diggs turns 33 in November. Peters has consistently avoided giving long-term deals to players over 30, though he has given 1-year contracts to veterans in that age range. Diggs has a reputation for being difficult when things are not going his way or when he feels he's not getting enough of the spotlight. And in Washington, the spotlight belongs to Terry McLaurin. That is not changing. But here's the other side of that argument, and this is where it gets interesting. The version of Stefon Diggs that played for New England last season, the year the Patriots went to the Super Bowl, was not a disgruntled receiver chasing targets. He was a professional doing his job inside a system, accepting his role and contributing to collective success. Is that not exactly what you need from a WR2? Look, I could be wrong, but there is something that does not add up about ignoring a receiver of that caliber who wants to play for your team, is from the area, understands the pressure of big markets, and just proved he can operate inside a winning system. The decision belongs to Peters and Peters alone, but the clock is running. And if Washington wakes up one day soon and Diggs has signed somewhere else, it is going to be very hard to argue the wait was worth it. All right, let's shift gears completely for a second because we need to talk about something that has had Commanders fans grinding their teeth for months now. Javon Kinlaw, Bleacher Report, just put Kinlaw on their list of notable NFL players who could be released before the regular season starts. And honestly, when you look at the numbers, it is really hard to argue against it. 43 tackles, 0 sacks, 5 tackles for loss in 17 starts, earning $15 million per year. That is what Washington got from Kinlaw in 2025. Pro Football Focus gave him a 46.8 overall grade, ranking him 112th out of 134 eligible defensive tackles, 112th out of 134. And the context that makes this even more painful is that the Commanders made this decision knowing Jonathan Allen, a 2-time Pro Bowler, was heading to Minnesota. Allen signed 3 years, $60 million with the Vikings. Washington responded by signing Kinlaw for 3 years, $45 million. On paper, it looked like a smart financial play. In reality, it was a complete disaster. Now, the question heading into 2026 is whether Kinlaw deserves another shot. The Commanders shifted to a 3-4 base defense under Durante Jones. And there are people who argue that system could unlock more from Kinlaw than the 4-3 did. The problem is Charles Omenihu is now in the mix. And if Omenihu performs in training camp, the case for keeping Kinlaw at $15 million per year gets very thin very fast. I will give Kinlaw this much. He is 28 years old. He has the physical tools to be significantly better than what he has shown. And in his one full season with the Jets in 2024, he had 4.5 sacks. The talent is real. The question is whether that talent shows up when Washington needs it most. And so far, the answer has not been encouraging. Training camp is going to be the final exam for Kinlaw in burgundy and gold. And if he does not pass it, Peters already has the exit strategy ready to go. But that is a story for another day. Look, this is what makes being a Commanders fan right now so intense. There is not a single boring day in Ashburn, not one. Every day there is something new to analyze, something to debate, something that makes you wonder exactly what Adam Peters is thinking behind those closed doors. Aiyuk frozen in contractual limbo, Stefon Diggs with the clock ticking, Kinlaw with his roster spot hanging by a thread. This team is being built in real time, and every decision Peters makes over the next few weeks is going to shape exactly what this Commanders roster looks like when training camp opens. Raise hail, fam. If this video gave you something to think about, you already know what to do. Hit that like button, drop your comment below. Tell me what you would do if you were Peters right now. Do you sign Stefon Diggs today, or do you keep waiting on Aiyuk? The debate starts in the comments. See you in the next one. Burgundy and gold till I die.